So yeah, what's the main? We had a couple of topics top of mind. I think should we start off with the AI regulation, that the executive order from El Presidente Biden?
Oh my God, that was some interesting news to wake up to. Has everyone read it?
No, tell me more.
Go check it out. He's signed an executive order, which is an interesting way to sort of pass laws, I guess. I don't even know how this American system works anymore. You can't pass it through Congress because you can't agree on anything. So the president uses the executive order mechanism from the Korean War to pass this new thing that says that all AI is regulated in this way, and it's basically an even bigger and bolder version of what the UK passed a little while ago to try and do many things. So things like try and get companies to, if you're working on a big AI model, you have to get the government to basically approve it before you can do anything. You have to submit results to them. You have to give them sort of red team access and all sorts of stuff to get them to approve anything before you're allowed to put it out there. They've got to come up with ways of detecting AI generated content and separating that from human generated content. Good luck. You've got there's all sorts of interesting stuff. You should all go read it.
What could possibly go wrong?
It is literally the biggest recipe for disaster and and killing the innovative landscape of AI right now. I can't believe they did that.
What even is AI? Like, how do you? If you went to a court of law and then you said AI, like how? That's what
undefined.
So it's just this bogeyman. It's like how do you even define it?
Let me check up GPT. Tell me what AI is.
Yeah, that's it. Is it one of those things like? Is it one of those things like pornography? You know it when you see it.
No, but it's all it's crap. What is AI? It's just crap. It's just a marketing term.
I guess now if I create a Leo game, and I have some NPC characters talking, and then I don't report to the government that what technology I'm using, I could get arrested or something like that. That's again interesting.
Is this just going to mean that there's a bunch of things that aren't available in America?
Yeah, you might have to go to Europe to get your latest tech. Imagine that.
That's not going to happen. Europe's even worse. It might drive a lot of innovation outside the country. It might push it out. That's possible. What it just screams of is regulatory capture. It's it allows the big businesses who have lots of money and resources to go and play, and everyone else can't play.
So you're saying like OpenAI, because they've sort of been pushing for this sort of thing.
Sam, this is great for him.
Yeah, so he's been going to Congress and stuff and saying like, oh, careful, this is going to be really scary, but we've got to get the adults in charge.
Yeah, have you seen that Terminator movie? Did you see how bad it could be? Yeah.
I did see a talk recently where someone was going through all the different industries where regulation has been brought in, and how the big players in that industry just made loads more profit and everyone else just lost.
That's literally the recipe. That is the definition. There's a great talk. We'll have to post it, that I was listening to a little while ago about regulatory capture and how it's done. But in every instance, that's exactly what it's done. Government introduces regulation to try and help the little guy or help innovation or help business. And what it does is directly drive the growth and profit of big business who sponsored it and pushes for it.
It raises that barrier to entry, right? That you actually need deep pockets to start, just even on the initial setup, right? So your investment has to be large to begin with, right? So, or you've got to be an established player, because if you're just going to be some person with a great idea and a couple of your mates trying to get something going, you can't, because you get squashed by that weight of regulatory nonsense that you have to try and navigate. So it always.
But here's the thing. We are talking to a room of very experienced software engineers. Everyone in this room's been doing this for 10, if not 20 years plus, and we've all done everything AI. We all know how all this shit works, and we use it in our day to day. And I've had many conversations. Pat's a little bit more or less. We know this stuff, and no one here is scared that the AI machine's going to take over their world or do anything horrible.
I am actually there is actually some nuance because I've been having these conversations with my family. There's like the media's really made a scare campaign about AI, and then just like anything, like I saw a headline the other day of like how some system, and it had like AI, like I can't remember, like made, you know, someone went to jail because of AI when it was probably just some, you know, bad process. And so the thing I'm scared of is bureaucracy. I'm not really scared of an AI model. It's more the institutions applying it without any thought, without any care, without any checks. That's what I'm, and that exists today. So that already
exists, and that already exists with software, right?
Yeah,
software,
exactly.
I heard a proposal where they were saying we should put watermarks on things to say this content was generated by AI, right? And you're going like, because you wouldn't want AI giving you medical advice. And you're going, well, if you're reading medical advice from some website, right, you need to know the trustworthiness of that website, no matter where that data came from.
Exactly.
Right? Did that come from a doctor anyway, or is it some, you know, homeopath or what? Right? You don't know. So you have to have. There are already mechanisms by which you gain trust in a source of truth anyway, and those still apply.
These are all highlighting problems that exist in society today. Where
exactly. Right.
Yeah, like yes, and so those things. Maybe you should talk about regulation or like extra ways to deal with that. But I don't think AI is necessarily the source that needs regulating.
You raised a really good point right at the start, Pat. What exactly is it? Where do you draw the line? What piece of code defines it, or otherwise?
Is it? Yeah, because a lot of this stuff runs on GPUs, right? So okay, is matrix multiplication of a bunch of floating point numbers, is that AI? Okay, what about a shader? If I'm generating a texture dynamically, is that AI? Well, it's doing the same thing, right? So like, how do I? It's just a brand name, and so sure, you can say that the machine learning stuff is innovative, and you might be able to classify it in some way, but I mean, for one, I don't think they model how our brains work anyway. And two, I just think it's just arbitrary. It's just silly. They're just computations, and because you can do it fast, it doesn't mean it's like so. It gives you new applications, but you can do all the same stuff on a CPU. So it's just faster. But that it being faster unlocks stuff. So how?
Sorry, like I wanted to clarify like this government regulation. So, I mean, you were saying that it's kind of like squash the startup innovations. So let's say like the startup, like they just wanted to work in the domain of AI. So now if they just do the work and then they don't report to the government, is the government gonna look at the work and say, okay, this person is working on AI, and then they didn't like
who knows? I think everyone should go read that themselves and try and figure it out. I tried to read it this morning and I couldn't figure it out.
I'm just going to get ChatGPT to summarize it for me.
Yeah.
The excerpt that I saw,
arrested for that, or like they get fined, or like just because they work on AI and they didn't mention that.
I think this is the beginning of a process of legal battles and challenges, and who knows where it will end.
The excerpt I saw put a limit. So if you're at a certain capacity of how much computation you're doing, you need to report it to the government. You need to sort of put your hand up and say, hey, this is what we're doing. So they're sort of at some certain scale, you have to volunteer that you're doing this thing, like you're I don't know, if you're mass producing chemicals or something like that. Yeah, we can try and find it.
It's fascinating.
You won't get details. It won't be well thought out. I mean, like in Victoria here in Australia, right? We can't even get a recycling scheme for glass bottles working, right? Let alone trying to regulate something as complicated as AI, as something as fast moving. And history has shown that it doesn't work, right? Like the cryptographic sort of export controls on the US did not work, right? And they did not work for a reason, because the technology itself was too important to actually be stifled by someone saying you can't do it. It doesn't work that way. It's not gonna last. It's just short term, and it does not matter. Other countries won't have those same concepts, and they'll just go ahead. And then once they get ahead, others will reassess and go, "Oh well, we can't be left behind," and it'll change. So it'll evolve.
Next subject. Let's move on. This is all too depressing. I don't want to talk about regulation.
Okay. Well, I thought there was some Next.js had their conference. So Vercel used to have a conference, and they're the main sponsor of Next.js, and they've been very smart. They used to have a Vercel conference, and so they'll talk about Vercel stuff, and then they'll have Next.js stuff within that. Now they have a Next.js conference, and so the headline is Next.js stuff, and then they talk about Vercel stuff inside that. So it's quite a smart strategy. But anyway,
who's sponsoring it? Is Vercel sponsoring it? Is it theirs?
Yeah, they're hosting the conference. Yeah, they
conference. Yeah.
So they had I don't maybe some of you have seen this, but I'll put in our little channel this tweet. So this thing sort of went viral. So yeah, just wondering what your reactions to that were, because people were a little bit surprised by it. So looking at a picture, so we're looking at it's a function bookmark. It accepts a slug. It renders a button. That button has a form action prop on it, and then the form action prop is an async called like async arrow function that says use server and then runs a SQL command. And so people were losing their minds a little bit over this. So yeah,
how does it work?
As in they liked it. People liked it.
Some people liked it. A lot of people didn't like it.
So how does it work, Patrick? So when it generates, what goes client side, what stays server side?
Good question. That was really confusing. I don't think they explained it that well. So apparently, from what I've read, is this whole thing's basically server generated. So the template, the HTMLs, all the code here is running on the server. So that was confusing. That confused people. People thought there was SQL injection happening there, because you can see it's like punching in the slug. And then there was the thing that really sort of made me concerned was this just like, what's the right buzzword? Like having some sort of repository layer. Like you probably don't want your view to be talking directly to the database, because it's just going to be massive spaghetti. So
you know what this is doing? This is bringing up problems that have been solved in other domains 20 years ago, and it's just making them worse. Instead of having separate concerns between the client and the server, you're mixing the two. And this is where you end up opening these cans of worms around the server rendering something different to the client, because you're trying to render on the server and the client, and you're not drawing a clear boundary between the two, so you don't know where the code is executing. In fact, it could be executing anywhere.
Yeah.
And
I think people consider that a feature, not some.
That's a bug.
Yeah,
that's a bug. It's a real problem.
It's going to be really hard to debug. You like, I don't know where this code's running, and then
it makes the complexity insane. Absolutely insane.
Too much magic.
Sorry, but I actually don't think it's a big deal, really.
Oh, good.
No, I think it's actually a good thing that you know, one thing that was bothering me in the past, at some point I was working on the server, and the fact that I have to jump between server and client all the time, like at some point I really wish, like, I just want to write everything on one side, and then not have to bother like writing two sets of code, like the server side client and the server side and the client side. Just write everything in one place.
I agree with that, because I used to do desktop apps, and with desktop apps, if the thing's saving to the file system, it's a monolith, and there's no server. Everything's just in one place, and you use MVC to like, have some structure in the code. But I do think there's a need there where we've created this distributed system where we've got this client running in the browser, and we've got the server, and then like there's a network in between. And so I think what people are doing is creating all these like they create like RESTful APIs or like a RPC. So it's like, I'm like making a call to the server, but I think that's actually a big anti-pattern. So this is like making that pattern more easier. It's like taking away the boilerplate. But I fundamentally think there's a bit of a problem with an RPC style approach to this. I mean, it's obviously successful in a lot of companies, but yeah.
This is just disgusting. It's making me want to vomit. I just spent hours yesterday dealing with Next trying to render something on the client and on the server from the same chunk of code, and it was different because one of the conditions was a little bit different, and it's just impossible, right? And
yeah, I think technologies like this frequently make demoware much easier. Like you can much more quickly just psych something out and go, actually, I want that to run on the server, just notify it. Now it's on the server, and an RPC call happens to make it happen, right? That's awesome. But then when you've got a big code base, like how do you manage that? Like, how do you make it efficient, right? Because frequently people will just go, oh, well, let's try running it on the server instead. And you'll flick a switch and suddenly now it's on the server. But you're not really thinking like, oh, now what's the chain of calls that's actually happening that in the whole thing I'm trying to achieve, right? It's so hard to keep that in your head. Whereas if you've got some defined interface between the two, and you go, right, that's a server responsibility, that's a client responsibility, and then you can go, okay, I've got assumptions I can make about what things I'm going to know on server side and what things I'm going to know client side. Yeah, as soon as you muddy the water, it's fine for small code bases. You do what you like, but as soon as the code base gets big, and then you've got junior devs looking at it too. You know, it's like.
Now, see, I'm not opposed to smashing together concerns, right? Part of React's success was it smashed two concerns together and got rid of those lines, right? You used to always have your HTML and your structure and your presentation logic and your CSS all completely separated, and it was really bad form if you put the other things in together, right? Yeah. And when that first came out, you know, I had the same reaction Armin has now with looking at this sort of stuff. You go, that's horrific. That goes against everything we've ever learned. But it worked somehow. You know, I actually don't know how this works. That's my main complaint is I don't know what it generates. So I'd need to look into it a bit more, but yeah, it might not be the right thing. It might be a good thing. It might be right for certain circumstances, but not all the things. But my hunch is like it's like saying, do you need an actual defined API layer for every circumstance? No. Do you need it once your teams get above a certain size? Pretty much, yeah, because you start separating out teams and structures and people and those sort of things. I
think React fixed that shotgun surgery thing, right? Because you go, I want to make a change. I'm going to have to make a change in the HTML and the, you know, and the model and the all these changes together. And you go, well, surely that's one change. Can't I put all that in one location? But I guess what you're saying is maybe the changes and the server needs to change too. And it's
I think this is far more insidious than that. I think this is probably a purposeful decision by Vercel to make Next more complicated so that you can only run this shit on Next's infrastructure.
I don't see the malicious intent in that. I actually see that they're just trying to catch up with different trends, right? Like, you know, like Patrick always espouses, you know, just trying to do the most minimal thing, you know, just plain HTML and CSS and just doing that sort of stuff. And people have seen, oh, actually, that's got some good benefits. I see them sort of trying to chase that way. But likewise, if I could channel my inner Nigel Thorne and go, what is it trying to become, right? Is it actually they're trying to move to something else that's different?
Every page is going to run its own Lambda, and you don't know where the Lambda is going to run. And
it's already like that on Vercel. Every route has its own Lambda. They've already got that.
And that was the way it was from day one.
Yeah, there's one big thing that I want to use this latest version, and I have to sort of deploy it to see. They've added, so that little async function that's there gets deployed as a little endpoint. And so I'm curious to know how they've implemented. But the problem is that the user might load version A of the site, and then someone pushes, deploys, and then version 2 is now live, version B. So the view of A, the HTML of A, might be trying to talk to the server of B. And so Vercel have added this feature to combat that called skew protection, where basically it has a little version identifier that it sends down. And so it'll actually spin up version A of the server if A HTML is trying to talk to it. So they've had to have this feature to combat this big problem, which is something you had to consciously be aware of previously. Like you either just let it break, or you had to sort of factor that in.
You have to deal with a migration. What are you going to do with the data under the hood? What if your data schema changes between version 1 and 2? How are you going to support all the versions out there?
So other hosts don't have this feature, and they're encouraging other people to adopt it, but I don't think it's going to go well. So
it shouldn't be adopted. Why would I want to support? What if I get rid of the bookmarks table? It doesn't exist anymore. What are you going to do? So then you need new generation databases that have different schemas and different versions of schemas, and then you end up with a data migration nightmare disaster. What was the database?
When you've got a large system, you inevitably end up in having, that thing when you do data migrations in 3 steps, where you sort of add the new column, then you populate the new column, then you move everyone over to using the new column, and then you get rid of the old column, that sort of thing. That sort of thinking of your system as a living system that you need to push in the direction you want it to change, I think is something that that isn't supported well enough at the moment. I think there should be more mechanisms around that so that you can go, this is my running system, this is where I want it to be, and somehow that process just flows through, and then you can, all the different servers that are on different versions automatically update and match, and it gets to where you need it to be in a more controlled way. Like the tooling isn't that for that stuff doesn't seem to exist.
Yeah, like that's a pattern that you maybe want to try and make easier, right? Maybe that deserves some sort of design, some thinking around how to make that better. That's the big criticism I have of React, or one of the many, is that it started off in the view. Like if you look at MVC, start off in the view, it's just your view layer, and it makes it so much nicer because data comes down, and then you don't have to update the view. It's like just done for you. All the DOM updates are done for you. That's like brilliant. Then it sort of became bigger in scope, and now it does like your manager's data, like the controls like states, and talks to the current URL, and does all the stuff, and became sort of like view and controller. And then now what this is trying to do is sort of becoming view, controller, and model. And so the component model is really great, but they're trying to use the same component paradigm to solve these three problems. I think that's just don't think that's going to work, because I'm not religiously attached to MVC, but I think like that thinking is still helpful. So if we're using components, you might still want to think of like, this one's more a model component, this one's more a view component, this one's trying to be a controller.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of how they've screwed up the router now, right? The app router issues, sort of related. Like, why did Next have to?
So overall, I really don't see really what's a big problem, and I feel like I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. Like, there's something new that comes out, and then there's the pessimistic way of looking at it, that it's going to screw up everything. It's going to be terrible. But I don't know. For me, I'm a little bit optimistic about it, and I think, okay, they come up with something new. If it's good, we use it. If it's not, then it's going to drop. But I feel like it's a path to. I mean, the direction is not bad. Like,
I think it's purposefully bad. Instead of writing complexity and making things simpler, we're making software more complicated.
I don't think anyone purposely makes it bad, though.
Let's look at the direction it's going.
People do it.
I remember from the tweet, there was like two versions of it, right? One is like manipulating the database, and then there was a joke one that says, oh, now you can manipulate the kernel and then just use JavaScript to shut down the computer. And I know that was kind of funny, but like, let's think about the direction where it's going. Like, just imagine that, at some point there's going to be no more lines between the client and the server, and then just like, because the server is.
Oh, technology has spoken.
Yeah, I just did shut down Vincent from JavaScript.
Sorry, Ben. I think we have to go to commercial break.
Yeah. No, for me, adopting a new technology comes down to what's it give me, right? And I can't quite see what this would give me that I don't already have. It's not an order of magnitude better in solving a particular problem. I can't quite see the problem it's trying to solve, other than saying, I'm going to use React to render my pre-rendered HTML stuff on the server. Is that a big problem for me? Probably not. So I'll just probably not adopt this, right? But the biggest concern for me would be.
Just wondering, like, how much you guys missed, because I think I cut off right in the middle.
We come back in a second.
We only heard the good bit.
Huh?
Yeah, we shut down your kernel.
We did a remote shutdown, async shutdown, Vincent.
Oh yeah, he was saying something like, "Oh, Vincent is going on the rant. Let's just."
We've added a button now.
Now he's on my side.
I just thought it was funny that you're talking about the difference between client and server, and I mean, who knows what failed, but something failed on your side.
Yeah.
Hey, can I talk about something exciting?
Yeah.
Did you guys see Grayjay.app?
I did when you send it to me. Yeah.
When I said, okay, so about a week ago, I don't know if you guys follow Futo, the organization. It's like a not-for-profit focused on privacy, right? So they're very, very focused on privacy and freedom, and in particular, free software, right? So run by an ex-software engineer who's just obsessed with, hey, look, do whatever he can to make software free. And anyway, partnered with Lewis Rossman. Some of you may know Lewis from his tech channel. They made this app called Grayjay, and the idea is to basically allow you to follow the creator off platform as well. So if you're following some creator and he gets kicked off of YouTube for saying one of the bad words, and he moves to some other platform, you can still see their content.
What are those bad words, Armin?
No, I'm not going to say any of those bad words today.
SQL and
In fact,
server
by
components.
even saying the name of the app, we may have said one of the bad words, because that video he posted got killed. It had like 1 million, it had a lot of views, and then got killed straight away. And YouTube will not let you talk about anything that lets you watch YouTube not on YouTube.
Yeah, that's my first thought seeing this.
I mean, we don't want our podcast could get kicked off of YouTube.
We may have already.
That's my first thought seeing this. I don't see how this is going to be viable, because I often think about aggregation theory, and like the way I boil it down in my head, is like, if you own the user experience, if you own the distribution to your users, that's like one of the most important things, like on the internet. So YouTube's just not going to let you watch via a different platform. It just doesn't make.
The creators don't want their work to be owned and controlled by those platforms. They want to have.
Then host it yourself. Like,
Yeah.
I don't.
It's like, imagine a Mastodon version of Twitter, right? Or Mastodon version for YouTube, where you've got creators that are federated that go, I've got my own YouTube channel, and here, my channel, my video channel.
I think that's exactly the answer, Patrick. So this is a pathway to doing that. Hey, if you got kicked off, you need to host it yourself. Go ahead, host it yourself. But at least the people who are watching you know where that is. They can still find you, right?
Is this thing like a social network? Like, why do I trust this thing? Why not just host my own thing of whatever this thing? Is it just a bunch of links, or I don't quite.
I don't know yet. I need to look into it.
Yeah.
I think it's more of it's a source aggregator. So it just, you follow the person across different sources.
Yeah.
Right. So it lets you find their other sources.
Yeah, but it's trying to be a brand in itself. Yeah.
Anyway, there's stuff.
Yeah.
I really liked the ethos behind it, which is let's try and help these creators not be held hostage by the platforms.
Yeah, I'm installing it.
It's very much a beta. I think they're just starting to shake it out, but that's interesting. Another one that's a beta that's really interesting is this great new one I saw called littleapi.com. Have you heard of that, Patrick?
I might have heard of it. I might be quite familiar with it.
littleapi.com. You guys should check it out. So we're just going to run a little experiment to see if anyone's interested in running podcasts like this. So engineering, technical-minded people who care about where their content is and not just putting it on somebody else's platform and having somebody else store it all. And seeing if they're also interested in a podcast platform like that. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see if we get any interest.
Yeah, check out the landing page, little LIL, probably realizing that the naming could be a bit better, lilapi.com. So like Armin saying, the idea is that you host the content on your own GitHub repo. So you just write the show notes in Markdown. You host the content on, say, like your own S3. We're using bunny.net, which is like a CDN, which is really easy to use and very cheap. So that's how we kind of got this workflow for Runtime Reverie at the moment. And it's been a little bit painful to sort of get this set up. And I'm a bit arrogant, and I didn't want to use one of the consumer-friendly podcast hosts. So this is like a dev-friendly.
Well, it's actually the exact same concern as what we had before, right? That you don't want to put it on the platform that can then throw you off or say something or whatever, disagree with.
Well,
so you're hosting.
For me, it's not just about censorship. It's more just like enshittification. You go with some podcast host and then you use them for 2 years and then they either go like big and then they don't care about the small guy anymore, or they shut down, or they become shit. And then so you have to like migrate, and then it's just kind of painful. So the idea is that all the content's actually owned by you, controlled by you, and then we're just sort of like the glue. So we're just serving an XML feed. So
yeah. Like Vincent, you've got a channel. You've got a channel, right?
Yeah.
Don't worry about your channel on YouTube, and you like that one day. Do you worry about that?
On my channel? No. I mean, well, the thing is like, I try not to be political because I'm thinking like, okay, at some point if I become political and then they kick me out of the channel, then yeah, it is about a, I don't know, I feel safe because I don't talk about politics at all. But there's some stuff that they did on YouTube. For example, like I'd made a review on a movie or like a review on a song. So I spend a lot of time like doing all the work and then cutting the video and everything and put it on YouTube and talking about how much I enjoy the song or the movie. And then the video gets kicked out because of copyright issues. And basically all the work I've done on it is completely gone. And like a lot of times that was really discouraging. So it's true that one of the problems with YouTube is that I have to walk on kind of like how do you say, like walk on a thin line or no, walk on a thin thread or something like that. Yeah, the expression. And yeah. So I think your idea of the having your podcast hosted on your own servers, I guess, is interesting. But you were mentioning like hosting it on GitHub or something like that. I don't think you can put videos on GitHub. Like
that's actually just for the metadata. So the idea is you put the audio and the video on whatever storage you like, you choose wherever you want it, and you put the metadata on GitHub. So the metadata is just like the title and the description and things like that, and then you get version control.
Where do you host the actual video or the actual MP3 of the podcast?
You host it wherever you want. So on BunnyNet, on AWS, on Dropbox, on whatever storage you like.
And so
maybe I think something useful would be to provide like some guidance on doing that, because I don't know, a lot of podcasters, like they don't know where to put the stuff, right? Like for videos, I don't even know what to put to, but that's about it, really.
Yeah, I think that's why this is like leaning towards tech people at the start, right? Is that if you've got some understanding of what you're doing, you know how to host files on a network or on the internet, then this might be a good start for you.
Yeah.
My hope is we would like to find some business opportunities, and I do wonder if this is actually a business opportunity, because my dream is probably that these ideas get stolen. So I think S3 and stuff like it is a commodity, and so it should be, if they made that user friendly, like anyone could use it. They just need to make it user friendly. It just isn't at the moment. Same with GitHub. Like GitHub could be a bit more user friendly for everyday people. So that's the I would actually love if, because I'm hosting my site in the same way, like my blog or the Markdown files in the GitHub repo, I'd actually load them on the fly, render them to HTML, and then spit it out just using a little Cloudflare worker. So we got this like crazy setup, but I want that to be not crazy. Like that should just be built into Cloudflare or built into GitHub. I actually sort of, ideally GitHub would acquire it and give us some money, but secondarily, if they just stole the idea, I'd be happy with that too.
Yeah, there's a good example of censorship, right? There's the lady called Naomi Wu, who's her name's Sexy Cyborg on the internet, and she was the
that was going to be my name.
She was the brand ambassador. She was a brand ambassador for Creality, who did 3D printers. And she's got a YouTube channel that was very popular, and if you search for any videos to do with that stuff, hers never come up in your search results. You've still got the YouTube channel, the videos are still there, but they just won't turn up in your search results. It's just insane. What do you do at that point, right? You're posting all these videos, you think it's good content, people like it, but they never see it.
Yeah. Do you know exactly like the reason why she got censored is because her stuff was too sexy, or what?
She had large cleavage, didn't she?
She does have large cleavage. Yeah. I don't know. There's good reviews of hardware and stuff, but she does intersperse it with videos of her walking around the shops in hardly any clothes.
This ties into another concept I think that's often, I don't know, I haven't heard much discussion about it, but I think that we've hit an interesting inflection point in entertainment, where entertainment online by independent creators, often just a single individual, for me at least, is more compelling than the biggest blockbuster out of Hollywood. Literally, like a single individual, it feels like they've, because there's so many of them making so many different things. The particular niche I'm interested in, that video they release every week is the most compelling, most amazing form of entertainment for me. It's like tailor-built for me. And I think we've hit that point where a lot of people feel like that. And that they now have a lot of voice. They now have a lot of influence on where people spend their free time and get their.
That's what I'm hoping with Runtime Reverie. There's just like 10 people in the world are just like, yes, there's another Runtime Reverie episode.
Yeah.
Like I've been waiting all week for this.
I'd be happy with 10 listeners. That'd be great.
You'd be happy with 2, Patrick.
You know what? We joke about it, but you know what? There's probably at least one person in the world who listens to this and gets some value out of it.
Yeah, no, that would be cool. We've got double-digit subscribers, by the way.
There's 5 of us at least. Like I really can't wait, until the next week when we do our next podcast. It's always fun.
I enjoy this conversation, and I think others do. And because we've now got enough technology to sort of democratize the creation of this content, and you've got so many people creating so much diverse content, there's now an opportunity for you to consume, as a consumer, the exact thing that you're looking for that's just perfect for you, because there's so much out there. And that's a really powerful point. Like it's giving all that power back to the individuals. Like the random kid in some random location outside Hollywood is now making better content than Hollywood is. Like that's powerful. Yeah.
Cool. Should we wrap it up? Did anyone have any picks?
Yeah. Favorite channel, favorite creator.
Oh.
Can you name one?
Well, you said Louis Rossmann, right? And I love Louis, right? Especially just the Apple repair stuff, because it's bugged me since day one of Apple hardware. I miss my old PCs where you could rip a board out and stick a new one in. And he's gone deep in the right to repair sort of movement and everything. But he's still a smart bloke repairing stuff, and I just love watching it. I can't do that. My eyes aren't good enough. My knowledge is not good enough. But I still love those videos.
But the content's awesome.
Yeah.
Any other favorite creators?
There's a YouTube channel called Productivity Game that he does a really good job of summarizing books. So he'll read a book up like Think Fast and Talk Smarter or something, and he'll read the book and then he'll just quickly summarize it with like, those things where you draw on a whiteboard and you like draw diagrams and as he's talking. It's that sort of feel to it. Like he breaks it down in a visual way, which I really, really appreciate. So those are good. There's so many creators I follow on YouTube. It's ridiculous. I watch a lot of woodworking videos of people just making stuff in woodworking. Funny actually, there's a guy who's got 2 channels. One is his channel, the other is him reflecting on his channel basically, and like watching his YouTube stats and stuff, and anything that's a bit too techie or not quite on theme. And it's interesting. He was doing an analysis of his. He was doing these videos, and he's like expecting you to follow along, like make the woodwork with him, like by the plans, do the thing, and he found that most people don't. So he was his idea of like, I want to cut this down and only show you where things worked so that you follow the right steps. He's now kind of thrown that out the window and gone, look, I'll show you when I go wrong as well. Because like in a tutorial, that would be terrible, because you start copying the guy and then realize you've just screwed up in the same way he screwed up. Right. But if it's entertainment, that doesn't matter, because that's hilarious when someone screws up.
That's right. And maybe you don't want just the solution. You want to see the long form, boring, the whole process, because
and you can learn from his mistakes, right? If you're not actually building along. So I liked the idea that he realized that people would appreciate that stuff and included it in the channel. So it's good. I like it. Anyway, I'll find out what his name is. I'll put it in the show notes.
That's awesome. I like one like that, very, very similar style. It's called Farmcraft 101. And he basically fixes stuff on his farm. This guy randomly fixing stuff on his farm, and just amazing entertainment. And I think it's fantastic seeing him fix things. And he'll often make mistakes, but he'll talk about it and show you his mistakes as he's fixing things.
Having grown up on a farm, everything gets fixed with a hammer.
But the production quality and it's not just the production. Sometimes it's a bit rough, but it's just done incredibly well. It's interesting. It's just genuinely interesting seeing people who are good at something create that thing.
You'd also like the Primitive Technology channel.
Yeah, great.
It's so good. Just start with some wood, make a smelter, make bricks, and just evolve it from dirt and water. It's so cool.
Awesome. Anything else before we wrap?
No, I don't think so. No, I've spent the last 5 minutes trying to look through my YouTube likes, and I can't really see. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
The Fireship guy is pretty good.
I
he's,
love
he's
Fireship.
very.
what's Fireship? Haven't heard of that.
Yes, you have. It's the like I don't know, react in 100 seconds or something like those. He does a whole bunch of those videos, and they're so funny, and yet insightful too, right? Useful.
He's done it's like he's done his research, like he's played around with the thing, and he's obviously written a few like background on what people's opinions are, and he just sums it up really well. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Never seen this guy.
He's awesome.
Oh,
really good.
Love it.
Yeah, he's got a few parody videos in there too.
Yeah.
Taking the piss out of just the IT industry. It's good.
Awesome.
Cool. Let's wrap it up. We'll see you next week.
Good chatting, everyone.
Thanks, guys. This is great.
Bye for now.